I've got my own show running in the background. Sorry, guys. How we doing? It's
Hey,
a regular wacky Wednesday. We'll just call that this day. Hi, I'm Nathan Bomber Brown. Welcome to the show. This is the Holy Rivals and Big 12 Mafia show. Glad to have you here. We've talked about some stuff that we're going to do tonight on the show, so it'll be really interesting. We're going to talk schedule. Big 12 schedule came out. If we have any questions about the ACC schedule, we can talk about that. We're also going to start off with the John Canzano article we discussed on Monday and kind of some questions that have been open for Washington State and Oregon State. And then I hope to get to questions and concerns you guys have about the schedule, because I think the Big 12 schedule has a lot of people agitated, and I think there's some good things we can talk about it. I did find a few things that didn't make a ton of sense to me. So that's something I hope you guys are excited to talk about tonight. But first, let me introduce everybody that's with me. We've got my two key contributors. That would be Moen from the Moen Show and Immaculate View. How you guys doing tonight?
Good.
doing pretty good. This schedule has kind of thrown me for a little bit, so we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, there is a lot to talk there, and
Mm.
I know there's a lot of people out in the Big 12 land that are concerned.
Mhm.
I know Kuz is doing a show right now that he's having people vent strongly about their concerns about the schedule as West Virginia is concerned. And I think there are some things that could be fixed for West Virginia, but overall, I think the schedule is pretty fair, don't you think, Moen?
I like the Big 12 schedule, but I'm an outsider. But I like the idea of keeping regional matchups important and protecting selected rivalries. We were talking about this before the show. Nobody's going to make a perfect schedule that everybody's going to love. You're going to find people that have issue with it. Probably from every fan base, you're going to find somebody who has an issue with something. But from an outsider perspective, the matchups that are created with this, I like it.
You want to add anything to that, Immaculate?
Um, I can see all the different perspectives, respect them, can even appreciate them. Everyone's going to have a different feeling about this, a different look, different wants and desires. Um, I do agree with Moen. I think from an outsider's perspective, it's good because it's going to keep a lot of different change in who's playing each other and depending upon who's good or bad on the year. But also in terms of, people who want particular rivalries, I get why there's some consternation. As an Iowa fan, I would have felt the same way if we didn't get Wisconsin and
Right.
Minnesota and Nebraska. So a lot of empathy. We'll just try not to make people unhappy with what we think about it here.
Oh no, I think that's what we're doing here is
Yeah.
opinions, right? I mean, that's all we're doing, and we're gonna give people a time to join the show if they want. I'll post the link. You guys can come on and talk for a couple minutes about what your concerns are or whatever. But I think it's great that they've even got a schedule out. Last year it took them till February, guys, to get a schedule. It was ludicrous. It took way too long, and yeah, I just don't understand why it took so long. And then of course they had to redo it because then they bring in 4 new schools and the whole thing has to be redone. So I just anyway, we'll get to it. But let's start off for a few things. Let me first do my advertisement for BYU mini football helmets. The QR code up in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. Take your phone, take a picture of it, go to that page. We're coming up on Christmas, even Thanksgiving. I use as a holiday in my house. If you need to give somebody a present and they love BYU, go to their webpage, BYU mini football helmets, and buy one. I have several behind me, and I love them. They're fantastic. They're a great way to show your pride in your school. And if you're a BYU football fan, there's no reason you shouldn't have one in your house or your office. On top of that, I've got a new shirt and I'm not sure I can see this. Let me see if I can get rid of everybody's tags. No, it's not going to let me do that. Well, this is a shirt I got from Royal Army brand, which is another BYU branded They just sell shirts and stuff like that. It's got some really cool logos on the sidearm, though, that I wanted to see. I'm going to post a picture of it when my wife's here to take it. It'll be a still. But basically, it uses all BYU's old logos, and it puts them on the arms. It's really, really cool. Very comfortable. And I just got that the other day, and I wanted to make sure everybody knew about it. All right. Let's move into the show. Sarge is here, the Utah fan in Florida. Good to see you, Sarge. All right, let's do some shout outs and then we'll get to the stories. First, Brent Nichols was the first one in here. He says, sorry I've missed the live version. I like to see what the Big 12 new schedule is. Yeah, we're going to talk about it. David Hackett, who's one of our paying members. Thank you so much, David. He says, hello, Nathan, Immaculate Moen, and Wild Ute. I don't think Wild Ute's going to be here tonight, unfortunately. Jeff Woodworth's in the house. He says, let's go for an hour and a half before the Avs game starts. Uh-oh, we got a hockey fan in the house. Cougar Tracks, you're not green anymore. We got a problem. You need to become a paying member again, man. I love having you being a subscriber. So go and get that done, would you? I'm just teasing you. I appreciate you being here. Casting for Chrome is in the house. We got Eugene says, I did notice that Farmageddon will be played until 2027, wondering if this model will last that long with everything happening. I think there's a good chance that this model is disposable. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but yeah, I don't know that this model is too pretty to me. I think there's some stuff that could change, but we'll have to see. BR's in the house. Good to see you, BR. Says, go Pokes, beat OU. Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of people from Oklahoma State that are thinking that right now. On Friday, I'm going to do a show with Greg Swaim, with All Day O State, which is Cody, and with Jason, Hall of Fame. And that's going to be on Friday. And we're going to do a pre-Bedlam show. Last Bedlam, look for that for Friday. I'll send out a link for it. Not sure what time that'll be. Just need to get the guys in the same room. But we're going to be doing that, and that's going to be a lot of fun. So look for those links on Friday. Rock Chalk is in the house. He says, hey, guys. Daniel Gygax is here. Randy Taylor's here, double dip. Let's see, Rock Chalk, Daniel, the Big Lubbock's in the house. Iowa State can have Texas Tech spot against KSU. It won't hurt my feelings if Tech never plays KSU ever again. Wow, okay. Usually people want rivalries. That kind of surprises me. You don't want that. Big Lubbock, stick around because I want to explore that a little bit. I'm going to mark your comment. We'll come back to that.
I think he doesn't want to lose to KSU anymore.
Yeah, well, maybe that's it. I don't know. Cleveland Rocks is also one of our paying members. Good to have you here, Cleveland Rocks. He says, rip Bobby Knight. Yes, Bobby Knight died today. Definitely rest in peace. He's a legend, of course. He also had issues, right? Throwing chairs and ripping people 24 hours a day is not acceptable, and it never was. He just won basketball games, so he got away with it. So anyways, that's sad he's dead, but yeah, definitely rip to him. Just get to the bottom here. Sarge in Florida says, hey guys, good to see you, Sarge. Rock Chalk is, hey Sarge, what's up? That's really cool. Mike Smith says, BYU bought one of those BYU mini helmets. I throw it at my dogs when they're bad.
Hey, at least it's
okay.
got some use.
I can't support that, Mike. I appreciate that, but that's nice to know you bought one. That's really good.
They might be really big dogs.
Maybe they're Huskies with Becky Go Huskies in the house. Good to see you, Becky. Thanks so much for being here. Glenn Lumens all the way from the Philippines. Good to see you, Glenn. And we're down to the bottom. Did I miss anybody? Nope. I think I said hi to everybody who's here. So anyways, let's get to our first order of business. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Turn on your notifications for both us on Twitter, and then for these YouTube channels, both Big 12 Mafia and the Holy Rivals. They're both going to have content coming out. You won't know about it if you don't turn on your notifications. So make sure you do that. Then follow Moen, follow Immaculate, follow the Wild Ute on Twitter, and make sure you turn on those notifications so you know when they're putting out important tweets that have news and information. That's how you keep on top of things. And it's really important. I really appreciate everybody who's here now. Everybody is part of the family, and that's the way to stay part of it, is you keep those notifications going. All right, let's go to some announcements. First of all, I want to say congratulations to RJ Witten. He's a 3-star DB recruit for BYU. This is his announcement. He did that last night. I wanted to make sure he got a shout out on the show. RJ Witten, I can't wait to see you next year. 2024 is going to be a good year. And congratulations on that commitment to BYU. We're really glad you did that. And you'll love it in Provo. Next one is, let's get to this Canzano article that came out on Monday. I promised OSU and Washington State fans that we would get to this. Did you both read this? I know that Immaculate did. Did you read this, Moen?
I read it.
Okay. What stood out to you about it? We're not going to go through every question, but we do want to just sort of dive into this. This one person thinks that they might get 150 to 150 million to settle that, sort of whatever you want to call it, case or, negotiation. What do you guys think about that idea?
I think it's going to be on the lower end of that. I don't think you're going to get 150 million out of those guys.
Okay.
I have no idea on the numbers. What it felt like to me, I wasn't particularly caring all that much about all the details and particulars in this. To me, what it felt like was just an overall general preparatory article to start getting people thinking in certain lines, like with the payout, getting that done. I think at this point in time, doesn't it go kind of into some scheduling talk?
It does. They talked
like
about how they could do some cross scheduling and some of the. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
This was a good one for that. There's a recent thing put out by the Washington State president that kind of made me wince a little bit, but this one to me was actually pretty good. And I've not been a huge fan of some of the stuff Canzano put out back in the PAC days, but I thought this was pretty good. I thought this was pretty well laid out. I mean, obviously he's talking from a certain perspective here.
Right. Yeah. Well, this is the 24/7 site for Washington State. So. Yep.
And I don't know. I thought it was pretty good. It would be fun. We'll go through a couple of these and talk with them. But like I said, I think this is a general preparatory type of article going out just to get some certain ideas in people's minds.
So first of all, I posted the link in the comment section. You guys can go to the article yourself. We definitely want to drive people towards the creator's work. So click on that link. You can, read the article more yourselves. But there's just a couple of these that stood out to me. We're talking about like the governance of all of the control of the assets. Well, that's fine. They're talking about the governance of the control of assets, but there might not be a ton of assets to control. The only thing we're really talking about that means anything is the college football playoff money and the money from the basketball tournament. So if it's easy for them to write a check and walk away from this, isn't that just the cleaner way to get out of the whole thing and then just shutter the whole conference rather than trying to negotiate each individual detail down?
Well, I mean, in order for them to shutter the conference, they need to have another place to go. And I don't think that they're ready to accept Mountain West. So maybe that might be why they're not settling yet. Because the moment this ends, the attention goes off of this and goes fully on them about where the future is.
That is very fair.
As long as this is going on, everyone is thinking about this. The moment this ends, it's okay. Now what are we doing? And people are going to expect answers. They're going to expect results. And maybe it's these two schools for now are holding this up until they get whatever answers they're looking for. I don't know. I've said my piece on what I think they should go for, but what they're going to end up doing, we shall see. The scheduling part with the Mountain West, we did assume that was going to happen, though. So that actually wasn't news. It was more confirmation.
I like this question number 8 because it really gets to the detail of it. It says, what's your assessment of how the uncertain future is affecting recruiting at Wazoo and OSU? We all know that recruiting is the lifeblood of these athletic programs. Mm-hmm. He says, I thought it was very interesting that Oregon State landed a 4-star prospect in the state of Oregon with a commitment. I was surprised at that too. The kid has just been on a visit to Washington, so he had offers, and yet they were able to get him to sign.
No.
Doesn't that peter out after a couple of years though? The nuance and speciality would basically go away, and that's no longer an attractive option if you have other options. I mean,
Well, just so I'll let Bowen go here in a sec, but just one thing to add to that. I think this kid, I don't want to be devil's advocate too much here, but I think he's a 25. Be coming in 25. So he still has, they still have to get an answer in order to keep that one, is what I'm trying to say. It's
Right,
great
okay.
that they got it, and I'm sure they're telling him, some good things, and maybe he knows more about this than we do at this point in time about
right.
where they're going to go. But I think he's a 2025 kid coming in, so they're going to have to figure out something in order to keep him probably.
Before I move on to our next news item, do you guys want to say anything else about this? I think we're getting to the point now where the stories about OSU and Washington State are starting to peter off, and the longer it goes, it's going to get less and less, unfortunately. The settlement date is November 17th. That's the date that was set by the court to have mediation completed, and hopefully everybody is able to walk away. But I just got a note today that the University of Washington submitted the paperwork that they had been asked for to basically do discovery, and that kind of shocked me, because and I asked a question back to the source, and I can't obviously tell anybody who that is, but I basically said, well, does this mean that mediation is working, or does this mean they're walking away from mediation and they're willing to go to court? Because once you give people that information, how quickly does it get out into the wild?
I don't know. But at this point in time, it kind of feels like it might be going forward. But that's maybe when you can actually make your settlement, is when it feels like it's going to go nuclear. Sometimes
where the pressure begins to build.
Yeah, sometimes you got to go right up to that edge in order to, get parties to go, okay. But they're getting close to that edge. I think it's the 14th is when
it's the 14th? Phase. Did I say that wrong? I thought it was 17th. Okay.
It's 14th. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that.
Nope, we're good.
Bowen, any other final comments on that?
Yeah, I think this Washington discovery, I think Washington, they absolutely didn't give it late. They went up right till the last day they could give it up.
Which is their right.
That is true.
Which is exactly their right to do, and that's what you want to do in a situation like this from a legal perspective. But if there was anything there, I think if there was anything there that Washington State or Oregon State thought would boost their case in the public, they would go ahead and release it. But I don't know that there's very much there.
I don't know. Washington was right in the middle of it. It was.
I understand they were right in the middle of it, but they're not going to keep things, in writing.
Well, you can't hide them from the court. Of course not.
Well, right.
Yeah.
But you're a public school. You don't necessarily keep, how to talk to people without talking to people.
I gotcha. Well, I'm going to say this is the last word, and I know we've got a lot of Washington State and Oregon State people watching. We have a lot of Washington and Oregon people watching. For one thing, I want to say to all of you, you guys have been fantastic fans of the show. You're all contributors. I see Becky here. I see Sergeant Pickles is here. Eugene is here. These are all people. I'm not going to name everybody because I don't want to call people out, but we've got a bunch of involvement. People really care about this subject. All I'm going to say, the final word, until we get new information about this, and maybe I'll get more leaks overnight. There was supposed to be a meeting at Washington State involving all athletic groups that I might get some tips out of. So who knows? Maybe overnight something will change. But as far as I'm concerned, this is a travesty that Washington and Washington State are tearing each other apart. As a Washingtonian, as somebody who grew up in between both of these great schools, and I'm fans of both. I had designs to go to both at some point in my life. I think it's a disaster, and I hate it so much, which is why I'm such an advocate for Oregon State and Washington State. What were you gonna say, Immaculate?
Yeah, I just wanted to say one more thing. I know that since we're on the Oregon State and Washington State tip here, I saw some folks thinking that this model coming out meant something. I wouldn't say it means anything. It's actually
Model, what are you talking about?
in terms of they thought that it meant, okay, we can't get in the Big 12 now.
Oh, yeah, the scheduling. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm
Go ahead.
saying it doesn't mean anything, actually. This is an extremely vanilla schedule.
It is, very much.
And I think we're going to get into that more there, so I'm not going to do that. But I just wanted to say that to the folks. This is not a door closing step. It's just a step. And the Big 12 has to take steps forward because, the future, there's no guaranteed future. So, they have to keep going forward with what they got. And that's what they did.
Right. All right. Very good. Well, Michigan, that was the other thing. We wanted to talk about Michigan. So I'm going to bring this up. Hopefully I don't get banned or whatever it does the copyright stuff. Okay, this is an article. This is a tweet actually from Josh Pate. Josh Pate has become an amazing college football commentator, a great creator. I'm a subscriber to his shows. I catch him whenever I can, but his little videos and comments are very insightful. Or insightful. This is one that I'm going to let Moen. Why don't you tell everybody what we're watching here and why this matters? And this is a cue for people to bring up their University of Michigan hats and put them on right now.
Right. This is who Jim McElwain has referred to as sign stealing guy, who is on the CMU sidelines wearing CMU coaching gear. Every time a play comes near him, he covers his face up. But what Josh has shown you here is, if you look at his sunglasses, you'll see a little blue dot light up.
Let me see if I can pause it. Let me see if I can pause it. Hang on. Right. Stop. Oh, it won't stop for me. You dug on it. I'm sorry.
That's all right. It's basically, there's a pair of Ray-Ban sunglasses that people at 11 Warriors found that is voice activated. And as soon as you voice activate it, it'll start recording. If you notice, he says something and then the blue light pops on it.
So to be clear, let's say that very clearly. So that's a light nobody's projecting on him. It's a light that other people, if they're watching him, will know he is recording. So
yes,
it's voice activated. It's like the lens that what Oculus was trying to create, right? Was it Google Lens where it was all voice activation?
Yes, that blue light doesn't stay on though. That's just it flipping on to show that it's recording.
Right.
It doesn't stay on permanently.
Okay.
But again, this is a guy that they're claiming they don't know who he is. His name's not on the visitor pass. I would definitely go back and watch the head coach Jim McElwain's press conference he had about it, because he is very broken up. I mean, you can hear his voice quiver when he's talking about this. And, speaking of Bobby Knight, R.I.P., one of the greats from Ohio State, won a national championship. I found this great clip from Bobby Knight that I think sums it all up.
Okay.
I'd like to refer to this whole thing from start to finish as a real Mickey Mouse operation. But that'd be an insult to Mickey Mouse.
I miss those lines. I got to admit it. He was abusive as hell, but I do miss.
He would have been the first person just removed from the internet.
I love
probably.
So Casting for Chrome says we found DB Cooper.
Yeah,
so I think that's close. It does look like DB Cooper. Doesn't have a parachute, and I think he's maybe a little bit heavier than DB Cooper was. But yeah. Anyway, so this is a fact, right, guys? Nobody's making this up. This guy's skulked onto the sideline somehow. He's wearing a hat that represents Central Michigan.
He actually has a visitor's badge right there. You can see it just barely peeking out.
And he's filming.
Mm-hmm.
He's filming Michigan. Sorry, not Michigan. He's filming Michigan State to check their signs. Meanwhile, we now find out that Jim Harbaugh might be getting a new contract. They're talking about accelerating a contract for Jim Harbaugh.
But if they really had faith in him, they'd 100% guarantee it. I guarantee you there's clauses in that if something happens, that contract immediately goes out the window.
Well,
this is all about trying to hold the recruits. Because you know
Yeah.
every coach in America right now is going to every recruit and saying, "Oh, Michigan's going to get the death penalty. Harbaugh's
Right.
out of there."
Right.
So if they really believe in Jim Harbaugh that much, 100% guarantee the contract. Guarantee him $100 million.
Yeah. Well, I don't
Give him
know.
the Jimbo Fisher. Give him the Jimbo Fisher special.
If I was an Ohio State fan, I would be livid, right? If I was an Iowa fan, I would be livid,
Oh,
because
they
to
probably didn't
me,
bother stealing our signs. Our
but the
offense is
point is,
trash.
yeah, but the point is they're cheating,
Yeah, I know.
and they're
That's-
boldly doing it without really any apologies. And at this point, if we don't find them on the grassy knoll, like Eugene says, no, one of our paying subscribers, if we don't find them on the grassy knoll, what we'll find out is that all of this is they basically admit it, and yet the NCAA is toothless to do anything about it.
Well,
I
now
think
the
that could happen.
NCAA has 2 schools they have to deal with. Because this guy has coaching gear from CMU. He's got that visitor's pass. You don't
Right.
get a visitor's pass easily. You don't get licensed coaching gear.
Right.
And he's also interacting with these coaches and these analysts throughout the game.
Well, and the FBI hasn't put out a new report, right? So we don't know what's going on with the computer.
Right. We
Yeah,
don't know. We won't know anything about
the
that. for a
FBI is
long
not going
time.
to. Yeah, they're not going to
Yeah.
say nothing about that.
Right. Well, anyway, I wanted to make sure we touched on it. This is definitely a news item. We're going to track it as it goes. College football is all encompassing, and we do all that here. So I want to make sure people knew that, we're staying up on this stuff. If we get more information, we'll put it out on Twitter, and also we will, we have future shows. We also do emergency shows. When did we do that emergency show last week, Moen? Was it Thursday?
Yeah,
It was
I
Thursday
believe it
last
was
week,
Thursday
right?
last week, right?
Yeah, me, you, Big Ten, Ted, and Greg Flugar did an emergency show. So if something comes out tomorrow, maybe we'll do a show and we'll get everybody caught up on that. But this is definitely something that's not going away anytime soon. I think Ohio State's going to make them burn at the stake, if at all possible, which I think is fair.
It's
I-
going
I-
to be interesting here. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No,
just
go ahead.
to put on it that people on the Michigan side of things are saying he's going to get his extension signed here very soon. I don't know what the truth is.
Right.
Bowen might have something to say on that, but to me, it's kind of sitting here watching two different sides tell like the same story told from entirely different perspectives. Like, is he
Right.
getting it or not? So that has to come soon, right? Like one way or another.
Man, I would
Right.
think so.
It's like I said, he'll sign it, but it's going to have so much legalese.
Maybe
It's going
that's
to
the case.
prevent Michigan from having to pay him a dime.
But people
if
aren't going
any
to
of
know
this
that.
stuff. Right. Well, they're not necessarily going to know that right away, Immaculate. That's, we'll see if that leaks out.
Yeah,
but
it's going to leak out, and people are going to, no one's going to know if there's some special wording in there that could really snag him. That's probably not going to come out with that leak if it's coming from, Michigan faithful. So you're going to have a massive kickback on that from people who think it's just him getting an extension and that's it.
Right.
It's going to be
You could
pretty
get
wild.
it with a FOIA request. It's a public school, so
How long does
FOIA
that take? Though? They don't usually
yeah,
just
that-
like turn around the next day and here you go.
I don't know how long it takes in Michigan, but average 6 to 12 weeks.
A lot
if
of
they don't
damage
try
can
and
be done.
block you. Yeah.
I mean, football season will be over by then.
Well, let's move on to the schedule, but I just wanted to make sure people know that we're tracking this. So definitely turn on your notifications on Twitter, and you can find when we get new news, we share it, and that's just what we do here. We want to make sure people know. All right, we're gonna dive into the schedule. First off, we're half hour in, which is fantastic. We got 70 people watching live, which is even more fantastic. We're gonna go over the schedule now, Big 12. If you guys are interested at all. We're going to do interactive here. So please do your comments. Immaculate and Moen will sort of watch those comments for me while I'm running the show. But as we get things to pop up, we definitely want you guys' input because this is really important. And then I'm going to be posting the link to join the show if you want to join and talk. It's got to be for just a couple minutes though, because I know there's a lot of people that want to get their thoughts out. So first of all, really quick, just first blush as we're looking at this schedule. Oh, by the way, please, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, leave me a comment or suggestion, and turn on your notifications. Okay. Oh, wait. Sergeant Pickles says before we get started, he's giving me he not only is a paid subscriber, he's giving me a super chat, and he says, Big 12 missed an opportunity, should have copied the Big. So Moen, you commented on that, or was that you, Immaculate, before we get started? One of you guys said in comparison to the Big.
I said that. I said I
Yeah.
like the Big 12's model better than the Bigs.
Oh, okay. All right. So you're saying
I
the
like
opposite of
the
what
I like
Pickles
the
is saying.
idea of the regional matchups more frequently.
Right.
In the new Big Ten model, you're not getting that. You're getting a lot of travel and crisscrossing and this rivalry where Iowa gets 3 rivals, Ohio State has 1.
I was waiting on him. Like I was.
Penn
gonna jump
State
all over
has
that.
0.
Right. So we're gonna get into the 0 because there's a lot of people that have 0 on this
Right.
map.
But if the Big Ten was to do it like this, Ohio State and Michigan would be one of the 4 that get saved, while Iowa would
Absolutely.
be there with nothing. So,
Yes.
the coin flips both ways on that.
No, Iowa would get that Nebraska game, that Black Friday game.
And I think Washington, Oregon would get theirs. I think UCLA and USC would get theirs.
I think that most of these are state protected. The Arizonas and the Kansases. Now the other 2 are favored rivalries for the conference, but I think the other 2 are state protected, and Iowa, Nebraska is not going to be state protected. So if they're picking 1 or 2 rivalries to push, I don't know if that's actually one of them.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's dive in. Okay. Thank you very much for the super chat, Sergeant Pickles. I appreciate it. As you see comments, you guys let me know if something pops up, okay? So quickly, as we run through this, and I guess I can stare at the screen because I'm looking out on the screen too. Let me take us off there. They don't need to see us. All right. So what we're talking about is the only ones that have the protected rivalries are the 4 that are in red. If you haven't had a chance to see the schedule, we're going to go through it in depth right now. So Arizona State, it's protected, and they play every year. BYU, Utah, protected, play every year. Kansas State, play every year. TCU, Baylor, play every year. Everybody else, Farmageddon, the Dust Bowl, some of these that people don't even know about because they haven't been talked about very much, are gone. And a couple things that stood out to me. First of all, the fact that this is so balanced that it makes a picture that is, it's a dichotomy picture. In other words, both sides are equal. Seems a little bit odd to me. Like, what's the purpose of making it pretty?
I don't know if they necessarily made it pretty, but they just kind of.
Because that's what it looks like to me. It's mirrored. So what's the purpose of doing mirrored?
Well, it's just how these graphs work. But what they did is they put the Texas schools over on one side because they look like they're playing against each other, at least 3 each. And they put all the Western schools up on the other side all together. So that gets all those 3s together. And then that just kind of forms this group in the center that seems to play each other a little bit more. And that's how they set up. Like, you can visually see that in their mind, there's kind of 3 sections to this conference. That's my visual of this. Is
okay. Keep going. Tell us.
But other than that, there's little tricky things in here. Like if you look at West Virginia, in UCF, you got 3 times, but I think that they wanted Cincinnati.
They did
for 4, and so you don't have, like, if you notice how many reds are all the way up in that top left, it's kind of an abundance, and you got 1 down in the bottom right, but it's almost like it needs another one. Just if you're looking for real balance, like you could have West Virginia and UCF right there next to each other or something, or I mean them in Cincinnati, but that didn't happen, and I think that's where West Virginia people are mad that they wanted some handout for having such a horrible time of things for the past 10 years.
Okay, well, Ag Biochemist says these are matrix plots. They are always like this. Just read one of the halves.
Okay. Yeah. That's how it is. Like,
I didn't know that. So I learned something today.
That's how this works, because you're taking one from the top and you're going down and meeting one from the bottom or from the left, and where they meet, that's the number of times they play. So it's like he's saying, it's a matrix plot. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that's what you meant. I was talking about just like the color scheme that you see and how that.
Oh
ends up
no,
getting
I'm
spread
literally
out.
trying to find out why everything's mirrored. So that answers my question.
Sorry, my apologies. I wasn't.
Don't apologize. It's fine. Sooner
he's
Lemon
right.
has been a paying member, one of our founding members for 3 months. It's good to see you, Sooner Lemon. Boomer Sooner, we coming back, baby. That's his note. I sent you an email back, Sooner Lemon. I need your zip code before I can send that towel out to you. So reply to that email, will you? And then I'll get it out first thing in the morning. Anyways, I'm going to leave that up there because you've been a member for a while. So just at first blush, I'm going to do the one I'm selfish about right away. Here's Coos. Coos is here. Coos, I'm going to send you, I was hoping you would have time to come. I'm going to send you the link to join the show because I really want, I know you just did this on your show, but we were doing ours, so I didn't have a chance to be on yours. So join the show. I want to know what you're really upset about. I think I know, but sorry, I'm going to divert just really quick. I didn't mean to take this time right now, but if he wants to join the show, there's the link, Coos, if you want to join the show. Okay, so I'm going to start with BYU because I'm obviously a BYU guy. I'll tell you the stuff I like about it. For one thing, we're playing Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah, right? Regionality and very familiar with these schools. Next thing I found very, very interesting, and I take it as selfish, is that we are matched up with Kansas. Can I just tell all my Kansas watchers and fans and people that I have come to love on Twitter, Kansas is a fantastic match for BYU. I absolutely love it. And I think BYU got really, really lucky with the schedule. The last thing I want to bring up is UCF. BYU and UCF are about the farthest apart in the whole conference. I think maybe West Virginia, Arizona State might be farther, but I know between those two, they got to be the longest and farthest away. And yet BYU gets 3 games with a Florida school, which I think is fantastic since there's only one Florida school. So from a BYU perspective, if you're a fan, you look at this schedule, I think you need to really, really appreciate what we've got because we're in Texas over and over again. We got this matchup with Kansas, which is fantastic because I think the schools are very, very. I miss the fact that we're not West Virginia. I was hoping West Virginia would be that other 3, but Kansas is a close second. So I'll just say that up front. And then the 2s, you can see we get to play everybody twice in a 4-year term. We're always in Texas every year, at least once. And everybody else, I don't really care about Colorado. Could care less. I missed Kansas State. I think that would have been cool. TCU would have been a good one, and Baylor would have been good ones. But that's kind of where we're at. Is from a BYU perspective, I think we did a really good job. I would like to see somebody, and let's see here. Coos hasn't joined the show yet, so I'll wait a little bit more. I need a West Virginia person to come on because I know West Virginia is like probably the one that's most upset about this thing. I was hoping to talk to somebody from Central Florida. I don't know if we have anybody on from Central Florida today, but that would be really cool if I could get somebody from UCF. BYU, Utah, Arizona State, I take those for granted. Yeah, so let's just see if Coos joins. In the meantime, I'm going to let you guys kind of break these down. What stood out to you guys about these matchups?
Moment?
Everybody gets to go into Texas and recruit. I think that's the most important thing about this is everybody gets their chance to get into Texas, and that's where you're going to get most of your recruits for these Big 12 schools is Texas. So I think that was really important, and I think they did a good job on making sure that everybody gets at least one game in Texas every year. So you can invite your Texas recruits to that game and make your hard pitch.
Yeah, like I said, to me it's a little wild that they decided to go this route. I thought that they were the best conference set up to actually go in the opposite direction. So to see this, it makes my brain start going and starting to wonder and think about what does this tell us? What's their plan? So I mean that's going a little bit more on the theoretical side of things, but to me, this is a schedule that, obviously a lot of people don't like and some people like. but I don't think it's going to piss anyone off if this schedule goes away in a couple of years. So in that regards, this might have been very well made. We'll see.
Kuz says he can't see the link. I'm not sure why. I DM'd it to him twice in Twitter. So I just put the link in common chat. Nobody else click on it quite yet. I want to talk to Kuz first. So click on that, Kuz. There he is. And we'll talk about West Virginia first, and then we'll break out some of these other schools. There he is. How are you doing, Justin? Can you hear me? He can't hear me.
Yeah, I'm on here twice for some reason.
Yeah, close your window. Oh, Justin. Just close the window, Justin. The YouTube link. Becky wants to come in, it looks like. I'm waiting for him to rejoin. Technical difficulties. Here we go. Let's try this again. Did you close the YouTube link?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay. All right. So I know you just got off a show. You're probably vented a little bit. Maybe
I'm
you
still
don't
on here
have as
twice,
much to
though.
say. There's got to be something else. Are you guys hearing me twice? Or
Nope.
Just Kuz?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, you got another window open somewhere.
I don't,
Justin.
man. I don't know what else to tell you. I've
Um,
closed everything.
I don't have any idea why that would be. You could try from your phone, I guess. I can't explain it. Nobody else is getting.
I'll
reverb.
I'll go out and come back in because this is really ticking me off.
Okay, all right, that's fine. While we're waiting for Kuz to join, let me get to some of these comments. Let's see. Sarge in Florida says, according to them, they never talk about that title. We're talking about 2017 in UCF. During Twitter, during the offseason, they talked about it a lot. Let's see here. Sooner Lemon says, dude, OU always plays good at Okie Light. So he's talking about the Bedlam game that's going to be happening on Saturday. We're going to be talking Bedlam, Sooner Lemon. I'm not sure if you were here for it, but on Friday, I've got Jason, Greg Swaim, and Cody are all going to be talking Bedlam on Friday. So look for that link. I'll try to remember to DM it to you on Twitter too. Oh, wait, I don't have your Twitter. So just watch for that notification. Make sure you turn it on. Let's see here. Who else we got? Rock Chalk says, Sarge Strange, they always are talking about that 2017 title. Oh, that's the other side of that comment. Sorry. All right. How about now?
Am I only on here once now?
Yes.
All right, perfect.
All right. You heard everything I said. I don't need to say it again.
Sorry
Kinda
about
let us
that.
know. Oh, no, don't worry about it. Tell us what you're thinking about this.
Yeah, I'm pretty aggravated. As most of you have probably seen on Twitter. I as a West Virginia guy, first off, let me put on my West Virginia lens for a second, okay?
Okay.
We've been in this league for over 10 years as the only team on an island, right? And we were okay with that. The Big 12 accepted us in when nobody else would. That's cool, right? I'm not complaining about that. Now we're not on an island anymore. You have a chance to throw us a bone, say, hey, man, we love you as a conference member. Excuse me. Love you as a conference member. You play Cincinnati every year, right? They didn't do that. And I thought that was dumb. And then on top of that, we went to Houston this year, right? Which
Right.
was kind of why you didn't have Dana Holgerson coming to Morgantown in year one is beyond me. That would have been great for TV.
Right.
And when you would have sold out Milan Puskar Stadium, 60,000 people. Instead, you go to the stadium with 30,000. Makes no sense. But anyway, instead of getting a return game at Houston next year, we have to go to Houston again in 2025.
Oh, wow.
And don't play them at all in 2024.
Shoot.
Now, how does that make any sense? And as I'm diving deeper into the schedule, the Eastern, and I know the math probably, because there's more teams in the West than there are in the East, maybe that's the reason for this math, but somebody needs to make sense of this for me. When I look at the away games on the schedule for 3 Eastern teams and then the 4 new teams from the Mountain Time Zone, right? There's at least 1 year on the schedule where every team from the East, UCF, Washington, and Cincinnati, have to travel to the Mountain Time Zone 2 times in the same season. All 3 teams do that at least one time.
Wow.
None of the 4 new teams do that at all. None of those teams have to travel to the Eastern time zone more than once in a season. You tell me how that's equitable.
I
Well,
don't think it is.
That's not just not well. That's just dumb because it's easier to travel east than it is west and have your teams play.
That's right.
And why would you cater to the 4 new teams? And I'm not saying it's a catered thing, but it almost appears that way.
I could get why you could say there's appearance of first sure. Whether
I think there is a little bit, and I'll tell you why. Because BYU got UCF and Utah got TCU. I do think there's a bias, and I don't like to say that because I want the league to be fair and matched.
And why would you not have the Farmageddon game every year?
I agree with you. I agree.
And you guys may have already talked about that. I was doing my own show, so I did miss the first.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
But Farmageddon needs to be played every year.
Mm.
There's no excuse for not playing that game.
Yeah.
And you mean to tell me Baylor TCU is a better rivalry than Iowa State and Kansas State? Maybe it is, but I don't know. Those are the 2 of the least passionate fan bases in the conference.
Yeah.
Are they not? And I love my Baylor people, man. I love them. But their fan base is not very passionate when you compare to Iowa State and Kansas State fans.
Yes.
And TCU fans are not very passionate either, unless they're spitting vitriol at somebody. That's the only time they're passionate. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't want to. I can get on a soapbox and rant for 30 minutes.
I would agree. Like the TCU Baylor rivalry to me is one that's worth doing. I just don't. I don't necessarily understand why it's that much more. Like
West Virginia, Cincinnati is a given, though, right? Well, I mean, give them a game where they're 120 miles away from each other or something.
200, but still, yeah, they're close.
Yeah, that's a 2.5 hour, 3 hour drive.
Right.
Give me a break. That's an easy one to do.
And they didn't do it.
I know. I don't get it.
The argument is, well, they're playing 3 out of 4 years. That ain't the point, man.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, no,
I agree.
It should be every year. Every single year that game should be played.
Yes.
And I've had people on Twitter saying that we're whining and all this. You know what? I don't care. It's my prerogative to whine. I'm going to whine. I want some cheese with it.
You are not whining. I think you have very valid. Like I said, I just told you the 4 new schools were basically pandered to in this schedule. Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado were the most, I think, gifted for all their matchups. I do believe that. And I think West Virginia had easy reaches that they could have made. The Cincinnati one is dumb. It's just flat out dumb. Whether you have a rivalry or not, just do it. Throw them a bone once a year so they your fans don't have to fly cross country to go to a game. It's just
sense.
stupid.
Makes no sense. And maybe you can develop a rivalry between those two. Now that Cincinnati's a Power 5 school, they'll start recruiting and that could become a really good rivalry. And I mean, they're good. Heck, they might beat us this year. Who knows? I mean, but they can probably compete with us, and it could develop into a good rivalry, man. I just don't understand it. Somebody's going to have to explain it. I'm hoping Ren Baker at some point will go on and do a press conference and explain, why he's okay with this schedule. Because if I was the AD, I don't know that I would be. But I'm not in the room. I don't know all the details about it. So there might be more to the story that we as fans don't know. And I heard y'all talking about earlier about the Texas recruiting thing, and I get that, but West Virginia don't recruit Texas that much. So that's not helping us at all. Now, maybe Neil Brown asked for it, and if he did, that he knows more about that than me. But as a fan, to me, that doesn't matter. I would rather go to Florida every year or every other year. We recruit Florida really well and have for decades.
Sarge says, he's addressing it to me. He says, Bomber, maybe the scheduling was another incentive to get the 4 corners to jump over. Man, that's some deep, deep cover government type conspiracy stuff. But it jumps out at me that the schools that really wanted to have a preferred schedule are all west of the Mississippi. I think UCF, Cincinnati, and and West Virginia all got screwed in this schedule. I believe that. Mm-hmm. West Virginia's only other 3 is Texas Tech, right? And that's great. They're going to Texas, but as you just heard, Coos, it's not like they're looking forward to that game every year.
Texas Tech of the 8 legacy teams, they're the furthest one away from us.
Yeah, it does seem upside down.
Explain it to me, dude. I
Yeah.
can't get. I'm pissed about this. If y'all can't tell, I
No,
just
I got that.
Let me see if we can get a Kansas person in here. Hang on, let me just put this out.
I was going to say,
hang on, Immaculate, 1 second.
Okay, I was going to tell him something.
I'm going to post the link.
We'll hold that.
Okay. I'm looking for a Kansas person. So Jason Spangler, Rock Chalk, somebody from Kansas, click on that link and join the show. Because I want to hear some talk about the Kansas. Because Kansas, I think, has an interesting schedule too. Okay, Immaculate, go ahead.
All right. I think now might be the time. We talked about something prior to the show that I think might be the case, but of course we do not know. When you look at a situation like this and say they were to give you the perfect schedule, everyone loves it. Like maybe the 4s and the pods and things, and it was great. And then in the future here, some new additions come in, whatever's going to happen in the future. And that causes you to end up with a schedule that you didn't like as much as the previous one. In a long-term kind of strategic sense, if they can just take everyone's ire on this one, it might actually be better for them to not give you the perfect schedule this time around. And if, say, in another 3 years they have to redo it, and then you get what you're looking for. And that's basically the best positive spin I could possibly put on this and say what they might be doing here by not giving everyone what they want in that case. It's just to get everyone mixed in and mixed up for a couple years and playing each other, and then you get your perfect setup maybe, when you get whatever schools are coming in. If that makes sense to you, Kuz?
yeah, it does, but I just don't know that. I don't know that they would schedule based on something that may or may not happen.
Well,
that's fair. It's a fair comment.
It's a fair point, and maybe that means it's more of a sure thing then. I don't know, because that's a good comment, and best I can say is this is surprising to me. This is not the route I thought they would go. I thought they were the best setup route for having little regions and stuff.
Casting for Chrome gives us a super sticker for 99 cents. Thank you very much, Casting for Chrome. That's awesome. Appreciate you being here. Also being a paying member. That's great. All right, Sawyer Brown is in the house.
Hey,
How
guys.
you doing, Sawyer?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. So what do you think about this schedule for Kansas?
KU got a protected matchup with K-State, and we got Texas recruiting, which is good, and we get to visit Provo as well, which they have the good mountain view and a fairly decent stadium I like to watch on TV. I mean,
are there any games that you guys are concerned about looking at the schedule? Because to me, the Kansas schedule is about the most vanilla of all of them.
Probably Coach Prime in Colorado, but they have not lived up to the hype this year. So, I mean, I think it's on fairly even playing ground with KU. And sorry about my voice. It's just a speech disability I had growing up. That's the way it sounds like. Yeah.
Nobody's worried about it. Sounds fine to us. So the 3 you got besides BYU are Oklahoma State, Iowa State, and West Virginia. What do you think about the West Virginia matchup every 3 or 4 years?
I think it's good because some years it's in Lawrence and some it's in Morgantown, right?
Uh-huh.
All right, so they could at least travel to KU and Lawrence instead of having to go all the way to the Four Corners, and that would be somewhat midgetating, even though really in the Big Ten and the SEC, none of the travel makes sense in those leagues either, and none of the travel makes sense in the ACC either. I mean, it's all weird.
Right.
I mean,
and Kuz, what do you think about that 3 setup with Kansas? Would you have preferred that with somebody else?
Not unless I would rather us give us, instead of 3 with Texas Tech, give us 3 with I'm trying to read this thing. Yeah.
Cincinnati.
Well, we have 3 with, give us 4 with Cincinnati.
4 with Cincinnati. That's
instead of 3 with Texas Tech. But I'm fine with 3 with Kansas. Kansas is doable. I mean, it's better than going to, BFE or somewhere.
Well, my point is, why even add Cincinnati to the conference if you are going to have them paired with
Makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, what else? That was literally the entire point of them being added. Well, besides the fact that we needed more than 8 schools, but
Right. No, I get what you're saying. Yeah, that was one of the reasons they were an attractive addition.
yeah.
Well, yeah.
What do you guys think about the idea we're doing 9 conference games while the SEC is still at 8?
That's a whole nother show, Bomber.
Okay. All right.
The
All right.
reason I've heard that the
But-
SEC will not go to 9 teams is because ESPN doesn't have guaranteed money for the matchups.
Right.
And that they're broke right now until Apple or Amazon buys them. But I mean, like the new scheduling for the expanded 12-team playoff in 2024, that might eventually force them to drop the FCS cupcake games that they always have in November. I mean,
They don't want to do that
no.
because it
I
means
wish,
more.
I wish they would though.
It means more in the SEC. They got to play those cupcakes.
Oh, but those are easy wins.
Oh boy, I don't know. So I looked at this schedule in depth. I went through game. Well, we obviously don't know the schedule by day, but just looking at the matchups, I think it's going to be. Look, there's not a week off in the Big 12. We played UCF and Cincinnati and Houston enough to know they're going to come to play. So there's not an off week. So at this point, all we're talking about is taking the stress off the student athlete as much as possible. I would think by doing a protected regional matchup like West Virginia, Cincinnati, you would be adding that security and health for the players. No?
No. But I have to head out, guys. I was just gonna say, drop in
Okay.
and say hi.
Great meeting you, Sawyer.
Good to see you, man.
Meeting you too.
Thanks a lot, Sawyer. We'll talk to you
Yeah.
later.
See you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Can I
he was
make a point here?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
You were talking, Coos, about West Virginia having to travel out to the Mountain Time Zone.
Mhm.
Right.
I've mentioned this before, but Big 12 after dark, they could have a lot of people traveling out there to make these late games.
I think that's true. Yeah.
I know that's
Maybe.
not fair to East Coast schools, but they want East Coast viewership for those games. They might be
You know what?
moving people out there for
That's
that.
a good point. Do you think, and I had somebody else mention this on my show too earlier, make a comment about this. Do you think, because we've heard Brett Yormark and others talk about the Big 12 doing a lot more Thursday and Friday night games?
Yeah.
Surely to God, they're not going to make West Virginia and Cincinnati play in Arizona on a Thursday night. Are they?
No.
Well,
If they do
No.
that, I might drive to freaking
But-
Dallas myself. And
but I will say
this.
this:
Easy there, brother.
West
oh,
Virginia
I'm
playing.
not going to be
like,
violent. I'm just going to
No, I know. I'm just
and have a
I'm
conversation.
teasing you. I'm
West
just teasing.
Virginia playing a 9:30 game. I know it's tough on what people from West Virginia, but it's going to draw eyeballs to the Big 12.
Well, and I think that's what it's all about. They're
Yes.
they're doing everything the Big 12 does, in my opinion, whether we like it or not. They're trying to bring as much revenue as possible.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think this is all part of that plan, in my opinion. Now, I don't necessarily agree with it, but again,
right.
I don't know the inner workings of and I don't see the numbers. So maybe, I'm sure there's things I'm missing.
We've got Spangler here. He's also a KU fan and I think definitely a booster for the school. Spangler, what are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, I give my 10 cents a year.
Go ahead.
What's going on? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you bet.
what's
Yeah,
up?
we can hear you.
What's up, fellas? How about that win over Oklahoma, by the way?
Hey,
And,
I gave you props on Monday. I thought it was fantastic.
no. I mean,
Rock chalk.
Yeah, baby, for sure.
As pissed off as I was about losing to Texas, I was 10 times over the moon about beating the Sooners because
Absolutely.
you got to realize when you lose, it's the same comparison as like when we dropped the 76 on Nebraska to send them out. Where like still to this day the most ever scored on Nebraska. I mean those guys beat us like 80 times in a row, and
Right.
OU it's the same way. So as bad as we've been, it just it does feel good. So regarding the future though, I said it earlier. Just looking at the schedule, I mean, you got to realize from our perspective, like we looked at the schedule every year, and you see OU, you see Texas, you just see like losses, like automatic losses, like all over the schedule.
Right.
And this one, I'm not saying we're gonna, I think we're gonna be better, but it just looks much more I go back to what I was saying a few weeks ago about how what I love about the Big 12 is every team, it's invested. You cannot.
Yeah.
Every team's invested. Unlike the Big 10, the SEC, where they have these kind of like Vanderbilts and Purdue's, these guys. Everybody in our league is. We're not. We might not be the the blue bloods of the sport, but we really have. It's just something to look forward to. They're exciting games. I love how the season's going so far, but anyway, the schedule itself, the Coos, you made a good point. I didn't really realize this, but yeah, playing a team 3 out of 4 years is like it's terrible. At first, I was like, "Oh, you're playing them a bunch," but like, what are you going to do on that year you don't play them? It's like It's like you get this momentum going, and then it's like, "Oh no, you're going to take that year off."
Mhm.
So I do think that's kind of odd. I just think that as a KU fan, especially our school has lost more rivalries than probably anybody else. When you really think about it, Nebraska, obviously Mizzou, even OU in a lot of ways. I mean, we played OU since the 1800s. I mean, and we're not going to play them anymore. So it's all I got to say is about losing rivalries. I'm not that big of a. I don't know, I do agree. It's like kind of like a half and half solution that they got going on here, and I'm not really sure what to make of it because admittedly, all these conferences now are a little disjointed. But I'm not sure what else the solution could have been because, we're not doing divisions. I think dedicated rivals, to me, it's kind of inherently unfair, like if your rival kind of sucks, how is that balanced, to the other teams that play? It's kind of like a double-edged sword. Like, yes, we love the rivalry games, but like, well, if I get to play, like when K-State beat the shit out of us every year, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like if you're going to go in and like have a fair arrangement or schedule for all the teams. And I told everybody this was going to happen. When you have all these teams in these conferences, it's not going to, I'm not going to say it's not going to work, but it's kind of, you're going to get this shit. And it's like, I'm really not, I look at the schedule and I'm like, cool, but it's all going to be new. I hope we like it, but it's really going to feel weird. Like we're losing like just that regionality of not playing, OU and these guys like, and we're like trying to figure out like, okay, we're going to be, BYU. It's like, again, like I was saying earlier, like BYU is a great kind of counterweight to KU in a lot of ways. And I really enjoyed, the game we played. I enjoyed the future, but, it's also like, it's just kind of like, I don't know, does it feel forced a bit to kind of like make this happen? But anyway, I don't know. I don't have too like visceral reaction to the schedule. To me, I think we're in good shape. I agree. I don't think it's it's a little bit ill. I don't know if Colorado's really, I'm not sold on Colorado. I think they're going to be fine, but I do think there's always going to be a little limitation there. I don't think it's going to be this like, landslide of recruits and wins and all this stuff. But
Right.
Hey, let's do it. I mean, we have a few years to figure this out until realignment happens again because it's coming. And
Yes.
I think that a lot of these schools, I would be lying if I didn't think that KU still was like, I don't know what they're doing. Like, I don't know if they're actively looking to like reposition somewhere down the line or if they're like, because to me, it's like rule the conference, a lot of these teams are like in a great position. Same with BYU. I mean, in Utah, in Kansas, and Kansas State, there's no reason that you can't just like rise up. West Virginia. I mean, West Virginia has been great in the past. Like, and you're not that far off. Like, I don't know. I watched that Ohio State Wisconsin game. That was the most boring thing I've ever seen in my life. And every Big Ten game is like that. And I'm just like, I can't stand it anymore. Like,
Right.
oh, by the way, but Immaculate. That
Hmm.
I like.
Here we go.
That was the most exciting college football moment I've ever seen. And I think it was bullshit, by the way, when you like, the whole like fair catch.
Oh, the punt. You're talking about the punt return. Yeah.
It was just like, oh my God. Like, anyway.
To add a little bow to that real quick, You will never see Iowa fans throwing trash on the field. But that was such a
I
high
would have thrown trash.
energy moment
I would have thrown
that
trash.
you actually saw that happen. Like, you'll never see that happen again. But for that
Alright.
moment, it actually made sense.
I was like, yo,
So-
I was totally down because I was sitting there, I was jumping up and down. I was like, I've never seen Iowa do anything like that exciting. And I'm not saying it's like, believe me, they would beat the brakes off us all the time. But admittedly, that's the kind of football they play. I know how Kirk Ferentz plays
It grinds
football.
you down. Yep,
There
Yeah,
you
right.
go.
And
You're
like
right.
they had this kid who just like he like tackled 3 times and like then he goes and scores and they're like, oh no, he like waved his hand wrong. And I'm like,
Spangler,
oh, it is
for a
ridiculous.
guy who didn't have a lot to say, you've had a lot to say.
All right.
I appreciate it though. Anyways, thanks for joining the show. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you later.
Good show, fellas. Later.
Okay, thanks a lot. Sooner Lemon, good to see you, man.
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. Man, I really appreciate you being a founder and a paying subscriber to the show. I hope you've liked our content. Is there anything you want to give me as an editorial before you dive into the schedule?
No, not really, but I can say that being a part of your show and Jason's show and Unfair Sports' show, it's been very exciting, and I like all the content you give. But I think now we look at OU as, not to, diving in everything. I think we look OU more realistic. I think when people were, over exaggerating OU,
Yeah.
we finally see the consequence of it, right? Because I think it was all hype. Because you look at the 2 years, you think, okay, a head coach comes in after 2 years, he's got it all set. Everything's set, he's got it set. Now he wins a national championship, just like what Bob Stoops did, right? But then you look at it now and you're like, okay, he needs more time because he's still new, right? And so this one loss, and for people who can bad talk OU for losing to Kansas, well, we were already tired, we were already worn down, we already had injuries, and so you already look at that, and you look at the hype. Everybody was hyping us up that game. So I think people look at it more realistic, and now we go into OSU, we beat them, and then we continue this train. With Texas, they're laughing on the other side right now. They're laughing because that we lost to KU. But I think when we go into the Big 12 championship, if we do, we beat Texas again, and then that opens maybe a spot for us. But as far as
so, because Oregon and Washington are somebody's gonna beat somebody there.
Well, I even think maybe Ohio State loses to Michigan.
Well,
That's just a guess.
Not. I hope Michigan loses to Ohio State, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
Cheaters.
I'll give him
Moen. So we have a guy here that's going to be in the SEC next year. You've seen Oklahoma the last 2 years exiting the Big 12. What's your opinion about the Sooners going into the SEC?
I think the Sooners in Texas will do fine in the SEC. I don't think there's going to be some culture shock. There's going to be about 3 to 4 years of culture shock. They're going to have to get some more speed. I mean, because the SEC is a speed league. So they're definitely going to have to focus on getting faster guys. But, I mean, I don't see them struggling the way Texas A&M has struggled, the way Missouri has struggled. I don't foresee that happening to Oklahoma and Texas.
And why is that? Because I think that is the concern. People have put that out as a thing.
I think it's because
go ahead.
It's because Oklahoma's such a powerhouse. They've always been at least tried, right? And so just like Georgia, they've always got the players, they've always gotten the things they need because they have shown their strength. And so when OU comes in the SEC and they show their strength, that'll lead to getting more players, because we're like the running back school, we can get running backs, we can get all these players. And so if we, end big right now in the Big 12, and then we carry that momentum going into the SEC, we'll be like Georgia. We'll have no problems. We'll always be that powerhouse at the end of the season that gives trouble. So I think that's why OU, and especially with Texas, because Texas and OU have always been those two powerhouses. Right. So it's like that's why I think we'll have not that big of an issue because they know the coaching staff, they know how we coach our players, they know what we can make them, and eventually, the players that are being hired or already in the portal, they'll see, okay, OU's in the SEC, we know how they train, we know how they do things. Let's go there. So we won't struggle as much as Missouri does because Missouri hasn't been good in how long, and they're just starting to come back.
A decade.
And then Texas A&M, they're still struggling. They're still going. They're struggling. So I think when you win for a long period of time, it starts to show people, and it starts to show what OU is all about because we've never been until last year. We've never been that team that's gone 6 and whatever, and only won
Right.
6 games at the end of the season. We've always been that team that goes 10-2, 11-1, 12-0. We've never struggled as much as we did last year, and that was only one time. Now we're coming back. See,
Well, and
we're
now
not-
you see the coach you lost isn't all that in a bag of
No.
chips, is he? Because
Well, look at him. He's losing
got
at
major
USC.
flaws.
He almost
Yeah.
lost to what was it? What was it? UCLA? What was it?
Stanford. He almost lost to Cal.
Cal.
Yeah. And so now people are getting on him for that,
Right.
And now we go into Bedlam, and now we got to show ourselves that if we lose, okay, we lose. Pick the pieces up, we go on. I think that's what it also shows is it shows players, we're not afraid to lose. If we lose, we're coming back. We're gonna win. We're gonna pick up the pieces. We're gonna get our players together. We're gonna hype them up. We're gonna go in. We're gonna win another game,
Right.
and we'll continue to steamroll. That's the kind of plays that we need. And that's the kind of the footage we need to show players, hey, come here, we win.
I really love your positivity. I've heard a lot of different, when I've been on Jason's show, I've said, hey, he's been a little moderate, even saying, yeah, it might be a little bit of an adjustment, but I really like how positive you are about it.
Well,
Go ahead.
According to my grandfather,
Right.
never, ever, and he's learned this lesson, bet against OU. Because when you bet against them, most times you lose. Because we look back at the 70s with Nebraska and OU going at it head to head.
I know. I
and
miss those days.
And it
I miss those
seems to
days.
me, because I wasn't here, sadly, but
Right.
it seems to me that, yeah, we lost one year, but then we came back the next year and we whooped them. So we just, never
If
say.
it wasn't Nebraska, it was Oklahoma. It
Yeah.
was amazing
So
football. in the
that's why
70s
I
and
will never
80s.
bet against my team. Because it's
Right.
like, if I bet against them, most likely I'm going to lose myself on it.
Well, then
you
don't do that. Immaculate or Coos, do you guys have any questions for Sooner?
Where do you see Texas and Oklahoma in the SEC right now? I mean, I think I'd look at you guys as maybe right around the same level as Alabama and LSU, although there are going to be years when they're better. But just in terms of where the program's at right now, I mean,
I'd say like it's always been. They're going to go head to head. It's going to be one or the other, and it's going to be like it's always has, trash talk on both sides. And it's going to be one of those things where, whoever wins out is probably going to get the better money and the better players. It's going to be, just head to head like it's always been. And now I think that Texas may, slip a little bit. They may slip a little bit, but they'll get back up, and it'll be the same rivalry as it's always been, just like it has today. You know what I mean? And as we go now to the SEC, we'll get bigger. Probably our facilities will get bigger, our team will get bigger, everything will get bigger. But with Texas, it'll be the same deal. So it'd be just like what it is in the Big 12, but in a bigger standpoint. And it has more risk versus reward going in.
okay.
That's very fair. Coos, do you have anything?
No, I think that I think Oklahoma will be fine in the SEC. Do I think they're going to win the league every year? No. But I think that can be top 5. I think they can be a top 5 team in the league every year, and be competing for conference championships on a somewhat regular basis. I mean, I don't see them. I mean, when you look at the SEC, it's very top heavy in my opinion.
Right.
You've got Alabama, you've got Georgia, you've got Tennessee's back now.
LSU. Yeah.
You could put LSU and Ole Miss, I guess, there too now with Kiffin. But
Ole Miss seems to lose those games. But
yeah, Ole Miss is probably still your second level team.
they're just below.
Yeah, but I would put Oklahoma right there with
I think OU's going to go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, after Alabama, Georgia. I mean, they're your two prominent teams. I think Oklahoma and Texas can be in that next tier, and even in that tier some years.
I think OU's going to be that team, one of those upset teams that you don't expect to win, and they come in and they just clean house. It's going to be one of those underrated teams in the SEC. Like you think they're not going to do good one year, and then they turn out, pretty good.
But they're
going to be like
I don't think
they're
they're
like
going
one of those trap teams.
I don't think they're going to dominate like they did in the Big 12 for a decade, by any means. But they'll be good.
Our biggest competition now is beating Georgia. If they stay good, that's going to be our biggest competition for anybody. Is beating them.
There's a few schools that are at that same level. You guys are going to have to really assert your dominance over. Like right now, Georgia, as 2-time winners in a row, I don't think there's anyone on their level right now. I wouldn't put anyone on that level. I mean, not Ohio State, not Michigan, no one out west. So, but I think Texas and Oklahoma, you guys have a chance right now, the way things are lined up, because the SEC looks a little bit down and you guys are looking pretty good. I would say you kind of lucking out with the timing and when you're going in, you're getting to assert yourself.
Yeah.
Devil Frog here has a great point. He says 10 wins will be the threshold for locking in a playoffs invite. I think we all agree with that. If you can get to 10 wins, 12 teams, we stick to the 7+5 or 5+7, however you want to say that format. 7 at large. That gives a lot of teams opportunities to get into the playoff and do well, don't you think?
I think so. I think that if any team does that in whatever conference they're in, they got a big chance. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, I don't know when we leave, the Big 12. I don't know who's going to take over, right? Because I was thinking, maybe BYU or one like maybe Kansas State or Texas Tech would take over as as the leading champions for the Big 12.
We'll have to
But
see. Time will
yeah.
tell, right?
Time will tell on that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's for
There,
sure.
there may not be such a thing. It may vary every single year.
And you know what? The league might be the
Hope so. That'd be
the format of the league is everybody's got a shot every year. That might just be what I've been saying this for a while. If the Big 12 in a P4 world, A4 world can get in 3 teams guaranteed every year in the playoff, and I don't know that they can do that, that would be a great success for the Big 12.
The only problem I have with
Go ahead.
go ahead, sir. The only problem I have with BYU is they're the kind of team that you think they're not going to win. But they've done this to us in the past.
Yeah,
You think they're not going to win,
right.
but they turn around, and here we are. We've lost twice to them. We haven't beat them once, I don't think.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
here we are. So here's our chance right now. So, we can only hope.
Jason's nervous about coming to Provo.
I don't blame him because BYU, I think, is one of those trap games again that you think you might win it, that that they're sneaky. They're not saying nothing, just like what UCF did. They weren't sneaky. They were all big and loud and all that stuff,
Right.
and we beat them. But if you're a team like BYU who's real silent about things and won't say anything until after you beat them, that's the kind of team that's scary.
The 3 teams coming into this league I would not want to play are Utah at home, Utah, BYU, and West Virginia.
Yeah.
I would not
Utah's
want to be
gonna
the
be
road
hard.
team in any of those games.
Utah's scary to me. I like Utah. I'm a fan of them as much as I'm a fan of OU, but they're scary. They are scary.
It's hard
Arizona's
to
going to
beat
be.
them.
Arizona's looking scary all of a sudden.
It's going to take a while for them to build up a fan base and stuff, though. You go to Tucson, and it's a bit of a tombstone and quiet. It's not very loud there, so.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about the stadium atmosphere, I guess.
Yeah, I'm talking about just
okay.
going there
Gotcha.
and playing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Speaking
But
of West
the
Virginia,
team, the team's doing well. You're right.
Speaking of West Virginia, we still got to play them. So
Where do you play? Where do you guys play?
It's in Norman.
it's in.
Oh, it is?
So it's a home game. Yeah.
If that was
So I
in
wonder how
West
that's gonna
Virginia,
work.
you guys would be in trouble, I
Yeah.
think.
I think it
Come
was
on,
last
Coos,
year.
you guys got this.
I hope so. Hey, it's
Well-
not a. I mean, obviously Oklahoma's good, but
Yeah.
I think they're beatable. I mean, they're not. They're not. UCF. I think UCF proved that. I mean, Oklahoma's
Right.
not invincible. I mean,
Well, I think since
Your
it's
last
going to be,
shot.
since it's going to be a payback game. I think last year we
Right.
lost to them last year. I think it's
Yeah.
going to be a payback game.
yeah.
I think OU is going to go a little more. They're going to push it to the limit, and that same with TCU. When we play TCU at the end of the year, we're going to push that to the limit as well. Because I think any payback game, you're going to see a lot of resilience coming from OU, right? Because we don't like to lose to people, and so when we lose to a team that last year, we're going to come back and we're going to try harder, And so that's the problem with beating OU is we'll always try to win again, eventually. Now, Ole Miss, they have Spencer Sanders, don't they? Didn't he transfer from Oklahoma State to Ole Miss?
Is
Or am I wrong
he?
about
I
that?
don't know who that is. Is he a
Yes, he
quarterback?
did. But
He
he's
did?
but he's not starting.
Jackson
Okay.
Dart is the Ole
Yeah.
Miss
Right.
quarterback.
And
Yeah.
Spencer, I think, is second string.
He's actually from here in Utah. Both BYU and Utah missed out on him.
Trying to figure out why he went to a team he wasn't going to start at.
Well,
That's-
for one thing, he went to USC first, and there were so many quarterbacks he left, and that's when he went to BYU. Had a shot to get him at the last minute. Ole Miss came in. Lane Kiffin talked to
I
BYU
was talking
there.
about Spencer Sanders.
Oh, sorry, I apologize.
That's okay.
Sorry.
He went to a team that already had a built-in starter. Basically, that didn't make didn't make good sense to me. But anyway, maybe he went for the education. I don't know.
How do y'all feel about Tulane being as good as coming up to be? Because that's kind of scary to me, anyway.
I think Tulane's got a shot to be the class of the AAC for a long time.
Yeah, that's scary
Just
though.
win games, and if you win that conference, you're pretty much guaranteed into the playoff. You go 11-1, 12-0, you're going to get in.
What are they now? 7 or 8-1? What are they now? Have they lost anymore?
I don't
7-1, I do believe it is.
Okay.
And then Air Force is 8-0.
They're getting scared too.
Air Force is a fun team to play against.
Yeah.
They do crackback blocks and take your knees out. I'm just warning anybody who's going to play Air Force.
I want to see Air Force make it. That's who I'm kind
Yeah, I
of.
would too.
Sure.
They've outlawed that now, Bomber.
What the cutback blocks?
Yes.
Yeah, I know, but they still kind of.
Speaking of Bedlam, since PSU just said something about that, Gundy said this game doesn't matter to him. I just heard that from Jason. He said that Bedlam, this last Bedlam, it's not as important as it was with K-State. I think he was talking either in long-term longevity or if he was talking just in general. But
he's just talking trash.
Yeah, I know. But it's like every game matters. Every single game matters.
I know. He's just trying to get under some folks' skin.
You know what, though? I like that point that you bring up, though, Sooner, because I agree with that. I think every game should be the game. And I bring up the example last week with Utah and Oregon. They had College Game Day come. It was the prime time for Utah to show out who they were. They did 2 days of celebrations and then went out and got worked.
Yeah.
They got absolute boat raced by Oregon and looked like fools. I think it matters who you focus on.
Every game counts.
Yeah,
you know,
I don't think that's okay to do.
Because that leads to, you know what, if you lose, just like what OU did, I think they underestimated KU a little bit. But if you lose, that could hurt your chances, going to a playoff or a bowl game. That hurts you. So that's every game matters to me. When OU loses, that frustrates me because it's like, you were this close, to doing something right. Right.
Yeah.
And now you've lost. Now you have to work for it. Now you really have to earn it.
Yeah.
And it would take us going, and now it's taken us going 11-1, and then winning the national the Big 12 championship and proving ourselves. So now it's going to take a lot more work than what originally if you would have lost at the end of the season.
You're exactly right. Really quick, this note from PSU Netwood a bit ago. Okay, let's see this. So who is going to sing "I Wear My Sunglasses at Night"? This is the picture right there, PSU Netwood. If you're still there, we did talk about this earlier. The blue dot is on, and that cat's recording. So you have all our support. We're voting against Michigan too. So I love that comment though. Anyway. How
do you feel about Penn State? You think they're gonna step it up?
I'll say really quick because there's Big Ten people in the building. I would just say I picked Penn State to do really well this year, but I still think they're the third best team in the conference. So
yeah.
Moen and Immaculate, what do you guys think?
Yeah, James Franklin is one of the worst coaches in America.
He makes really bad decisions.
He is the John Cooper of Penn State. He recruits. He gets these fantastic recruits. Every year, he's a highly rated team. He comes in and loses to his rivals. He will lose to Michigan this year. He already lost to Ohio State. It's James Franklin.
Well, and also, obviously, Coos, you guys played him, so your opinion is also accepted. I didn't mean to leave you out. Sorry.
No, Penn State? Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know enough about him to judge Franklin as a coach. But I can see where people would say that because he does seem to. I mean, when I was doing my preview for that game, I mean, they are freaking loaded with talent, man. I mean, they got one of the most talented rosters I've seen. They've got NFL players at almost every position. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So for them, if they don't make the CFP, something's wrong.
Also, for the Texas, if there's any Texas fans in the chat, I'm sorry to say this, but I think K-State might beat you. I think K-State might do it, and if that's the case, it's going to be a flip. I do. I have nothing against Texas when we're not playing them, but I think K-State might have enough power to beat Texas. I think because it's overdue for the coach.
Very fair. Immaculate, what do you think about Penn State?
The problem with Penn State is that any week now, they could turn into the team that they're supposed to be. But until that time, they're underperforming drastically. Their defense is playing well. Their defense is full of studs. They've got great players in skill positions on offense. I'm not quite sure about their line right now. It's maybe could be better, but honestly and truthfully, it's their quarterback that's not impressing me. And
Right.
I don't know if that's just they don't have a good quarterbacks coach to really build these guys up, but that guy has talent and he is underperforming, and I don't know why. But maybe they show up and all of a sudden become the team that they were supposed to be, and whomever is showing up against them that day is going to have a very bad night. And I mean, it'll be like what happened to Iowa, but that wasn't due to Penn State being amazing. That was just Iowa being Iowa.
Who's Penn
PSU
State playing next?
Sorry, let me say this really quick. PSU Nitwit said we're gonna love them when they beat Michigan. You guys go beat Michigan. I will do.
Yeah.
I will do a 5-minute thing on Penn State. Go
I
get
will
that
give
done.
her a traction on James Franklin if he goes
I
in
will-
there and beats Michigan.
Absolutely support you. All right, go ahead, Sooner. What were you gonna say?
I said, who does Penn State play? Is it Michigan next, or who is it next?
They play Maryland next at Maryland, then Michigan at home, Rutgers at home.
I think Penn State's got Maryland perfectly, but I don't know about Michigan. It's going to be a toss-up game. It's going to be one of those games.
It's at home, and Penn State is better at home.
It's at home, but it's not a whiteout game.
And it's early, and it's a morning game.
Yeah, it's a noon game.
They're not as good as the night games in Happy Valley. I'll say that right now.
I'm glad.
Go ahead.
I'm glad we don't have to play Baylor this year.
Yeah,
That'd have
so
been a pain.
we're talking Baylor right now. How we doing, our web? Good to see you, man.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
We can.
Gotcha.
Yeah. How you doing?
Excellent.
The
Hey,
infamous
happy
R
to-
Web, the famous R Web, man. What's up?
Hey man, now I got a bone to pick with you now.
Uh-oh. What is that?
Well, you see my background, so you know I got to defend Baylor TCU now, right?
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Do it.
So you were listening in and just not commenting. I see how it is.
Yeah, I was just waiting for you to just, lay it all out. But no, actually, seriously though, man, the way you laid out your case for the issues with the schedule, I totally agree with you. I mean, I personally, just my opinion, I would have gone with a potted model myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Just to protect for those sort of things, right?
Mhm.
And make sure that for regionally wise, you're playing those games every year, and then you can still, by pairing off with, two in each other pod throughout a 4-year cycle, get everyone to do home and homes, throughout the whole conference.
Right.
Well, in my opinion, minimizing travel. So I totally agree with you. I will say though, in terms of Baylor TCU, if I could make a quick defense of that
Absolutely.
rivalry, if you will.
Mhm.
So goes back to 1899.
Okay.
And the only reason why it stopped being continuous was to break up with the Southwest Conference. And
Okay.
even then we tried to play each other.
Okay.
And if you're not familiar with the history of TCU and Baylor, so TCU actually started as a college called Ad Ran, which was in Waco at the same time as Baylor.
Mm.
And there's a legend, because that campus burned down. There's always been a legend that someone from Baylor did it, and then they moved to Fort Worth. So there's a lot of, if you will, background behind there. Now,
Okay.
now I will say on the other hand, when I was in school, TCU was not high on the list of rivals. It was, Texas, A&M, Battle of the Brazos, which is one that's unfortunately died and was really a long rivalry as well, going back to the original founding of the Southwest Conference. And then from there was kind of, all the Texas schools hated each other, and the only thing that they agreed with is they all hated Arkansas.
I'm old enough to
So-
remember when that Arkansas game used to be like bloodletting.
Yep. And I do miss playing
was-
them.
it
That
was
was a
bad.
great rivalry as well. So
Yeah. When they moved
But,
out, I hated that. As being from somebody on the West Coast, I thought I used to love those old Southwestern Conference games. I
Yeah.
absolutely loved them.
funny story. So, Frank Broyles was interviewed, I'd say probably about 5-6 years before his passing away. And he shared that, hey, the reason why they made that move is they really thought that Texas was going to be right behind them.
Oh,
Texas was going to go to SEC with them, and Texas balked because they really had a preference for, at that time, the Pac-10, and that's
Okay.
why and Coos probably saw it a little bit from. Well, actually, no. While you're in the conference, while West Virginia was in the conference too, there was a couple of flirtations with that before, things finally settled down, and then Texas and Oklahoma made the decision that they decided they had to make. So,
right.
but there is some history in terms of Arkansas kind of felt that the Southwest Conference was dying because it's just hard to have a one state conference. It just
Yeah.
Right.
It's very true. And now we know we're coast to coast almost perfectly with the Big 12. So we're going to be in every time zone. And I think that's really the benefit, and why the Pac-12 struggled is because everybody's in bed by the time they play their prime games. So, that was a challenge. So I've got the schedule up here. Obviously, you're one of the lucky schools that gets a protected rival. What do you feel about first? What are your thoughts about what they did to West Virginia?
Oh, like I said, I think that that it's wrong, and Kuz laid it out perfectly. You can see that the travel is just horrendous, and it didn't have to be. There, in my opinion, there were many other models that could have been used that could have alleviated the travel that we're talking about.
Right.
I'll be honest, and I think I can't remember if it was you, Moen, or Macklin. I actually kind of disagree. I actually wish we had kind of followed the Big Ten model from the sense of, protecting some more of these rivalries, whether you're talking about Farmageddon, one that we don't talk about that touches. I think the Texas Tech fans would in the chat would back me up on this, but now because of the breakup of the Southwest Conference, losing Texas, losing A&M from a Baylor standpoint and from a Tech standpoint, that was our longest continuous rivalry, going back to the 50s. And I think for Tech, I think we are the school that they played the most in their history. So, there's lots of little hidden, gems that I think we've messed with that we didn't have to.
Yeah. I think that's the best point is they didn't have to mess with them. They could have done something to make those different if they wanted to, if there was a will. I think that's true. You guys have any questions for our web?
Yeah, if I may. I want to say, like what you're saying, I totally agree with you, and you did definitely agree with me that kind of not a pod system, but a protected rivalry system that almost looks like 4 groupings. I think that would have been so good that Yormark might have had some presidents in the near future that would have been like, I don't know if we want to expand anymore.
Yeah.
And if he would have given you guys that, and if he really does have plans for more expansion, maybe he just didn't want to set himself up for failure, because to me it looks so good and so easy to do and so ready-made that for it to not happen, it makes me think there's something there. Maybe there's nothing there. But
and I did think about that, Immaculate. I think though, and I don't know the reasoning why, right? But
sure, right.
But I think we all know that the desirement of the Big 12 is to now go east and hopefully, if you will, if things happen with the ACC, kind of take their piece of it. So I think even in the potted model, the only thing you would have done is done just a little bit of sliding, probably to the benefit of teams like West Virginia, or maybe you have four pots of 5, and then you got to wicker with the mechanisms a little bit. But I think because the expansion going forward is definitely in the eastward direction, I think it could have been worked with. But to your point, I think that could definitely be a factor as well.
Well, go ahead. Sorry, Chris.
I want to chime in on the pod thing, and I was for a pod. I'm a pod guy too. I think that was the best answer. But if I'm an Iowa State or a Houston, I'm probably not liking the idea of being in a pod with West Virginia, UCF, and Cincinnati.
Yeah,
that might have
we've
been.
We've had that debate here.
Yeah, that might have been the argument. But here's my argument. First off, Iowa State, I would respect the fact that they're a legacy member of the league and say, okay, that's cool. You don't have to be in that pod. You can be in a pod with Kansas State, and whoever, Oklahoma State, whatever.
Yep.
But Houston,
Yep.
you're new here.
Mhm.
Sorry, but you kind of gotta, just hang with us here, work with us, be cooperative for a few years until this league changes again. To like you guys talked about, maybe we get some Eastern teams in. But for now, we need you guys. I mean, and like I said on my show, it's what is it, a 2-hour flight from Houston to UCF?
Yeah.
Well, and they're used to it.
Two of the biggest airports in America. And great point, they've been doing
been
it in
doing
the AAC for years anyway.
Yes.
That's right.
They already have the practices, they have the numbers, they have the
So-
the logistics for doing it.
So
So
put West
Yep.
Virginia, Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF in a pod.
Yep.
Problem solved.
Yeah.
And
it would have been easy.
Yeah, and you can still you can have your Texas teams other than Houston.
You
can
give
have-
Oklahoma State a choice. Where do you want to go? Do you want to be with the Plains or the Texas schools? And then Colorado gets the other
Yeah.
one.
I mean, to me,
Yeah.
it just if it was, I guess it's too easy. It makes so much sense that nobody wants to do it. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
almost like
Or if they did it, no one would want to do anything else after that ever again because it would have been.
Yeah, which I'll
think
tell
it's
you, in my
gonna be
opinion,
perfect.
I think Oklahoma State would have definitely chosen to be with the Texas team because they
Probably.
from a recruiting perspective need
Yes.
to
Mhm.
similar to OU and why the River shootout, and I'm going to call it the shootout because that's what it is. Let's not be
Mhm.
politically correct here, if you will.
They-
It's played in Dallas, and
Right.
there's a reason for that.
And they've earned the choice though by
Guys,
over Colorado. Like Colorado, you'll go wherever Oklahoma State does not want to go because
well, and even with Colorado, you could have, in that you put Oklahoma State with the Texas schools. Colorado, you could very much say, look, guys, we're reuniting you with your old Big Eight rivals in Kansas State, and Iowa State, who, oh, by the way, have significant alumni presence in your state. So, that's kind of the sweetener of, dude, I get it. They may not be I don't think there's really a super sexy team in this league anyway. So so let's just call it what it is. But there's that sweetener for you, Colorado, because I guarantee you the KSU fans will travel, the ISU fans will travel, and I think as Kansas starts to grow into being good in football from a culture standpoint, you'll see them start to travel.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Kansas has an opportunity now with the new Big 12 to really stretch its legs if it wants to put in the money and resources. And I think there's a chance here for them. They've got new recruiting grounds, and you keep winning, that brings eyeballs, and so people want to be on TV as well.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, if Colorado, I mean, they get any better, like they, as they're getting better, through the
Yeah.
years, them and KU could have a run around forever in terms of recruits and training and all this. So I
Right.
think it's good for both teams, but the travel is kind of horrendous in some cases. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And but this is going to have an opening for the Big 12, I think, and I think maybe it'll draw more people in. As an Oklahoma fan, as an OU fan, I'd be tempted to see how Colorado does because I grew up with the older generation, like grandparents and whatever, and I was always told stories like, "Oh, Colorado, we always play Colorado. Colorado, they're always good," stuff like that. And so I'd be interested to see if they can get back to some standard now that we're gone. OU and Texas is gone, and see if they can get some kind of good recruits out of Texas, like TCU or Baylor, or out of Kansas
Right.
or Florida because they have UCF in the Big 12. So maybe this would give Colorado and KU a chance to be something bigger than they were when we were in the conference.
It's quite possible. Bo Stacker's comment here is spot on. The TV executives had a hand in this for sure. That's absolutely right, Bo. Bob Thompson owes a visit to me, probably in the next couple weeks. I need to follow up with him again. We're going to talk about this schedule in depth with him because I guarantee you he'll know probably the ins and outs of why most of these decisions were made that were way above what we know. All six of us have followed realignment enough to know that the TV executives, while they might not be the ones driving realignment, they certainly are the ones that are feeding realignment. And that attention to detail on the schedule is big. Maybe that's why there's only 4 permanent rivals, is because the TV they didn't want to tie down the West Coast trips. They wanted everybody to have a chance to play in Arizona, that late night window, like Moen said. I don't know, but
Could
we'll
be.
ask Bob Thompson.
I think it's all. Yeah, I think it's timing. They do it for
Yeah.
at a time standpoint. Maybe I think that's maybe why they do it like they did.
Yeah. It's above
Yeah, but
us, I think.
But
Go
I
ahead.
think that the Kuz's point earlier, the Big 12 better not send teams like UCF and West Virginia and Cincinnati to Thursday night tilts, at Arizona and at Utah. That's just, or they better situate the schedule in such a way that you guys get compensated for that.
Like a bye week afterwards.
Right.
Yeah,
or before, or whatever.
before,
Right.
yeah. Because if you had to think about it, if you had a bye week before then, that would give you 13 days to plan, and then after that you'd have an extra 2 days.
Mhm.
So that would be a way to make that work, and maybe that is a trade. That I could see that happening very easily. I know this, that you don't want to play BYU or Utah at night. I just saying it at home. Now, not in West Virginia. BYU plays at night in West Virginia. It's not quite the same thing. But coming west, it's extremely hard. It's easier for teams to go east than it is for teams to go west.
Well, that's going to be the fun thing I think about this conference is there are a lot of places where you don't want to have a night game.
That's true. Yeah, Oklahoma
mean-
State's another one. Absolutely.
Oh, and I'll give you another one. And I think Sooner Lemon will probably agree with me with this is, Ames is not a fun place to go to at night, especially in November.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, that doesn't sound pretty. I'll tell you that.
No.
Just saying that sounds pretty tough, actually.
I was pleasantly surprised when they didn't bring Oregon and Oregon State into the Big 12, because that would have been something to see, in my opinion.
It would have been great. It would have been a dream scenario, though. Washington and Oregon were always going to go to the Big Ten. So, yeah. All right, guys, this has been a fantastic show. Our Webb, you need to make this more of a regular thing, man. I know you and I have
will.
talked several times about you being a contributor. I would love to have you on more often. I really appreciate your opinion. And, boy, we have some great discussions on Twitter, and I would love to do more of this if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
I'd like to be on the show more too, so I'll be.
Oh,
here.
really?
There he
Yeah.
is.
All right. Sooner, do you have a Twitter?
I'll probably have to send it to you.
Yeah,
Through,
you will, because you didn't
yeah.
give it to me in your email.
Yeah, I'll send it through the email.
Okay, yeah, I need your zip code. Can you just give me your zip code? Maybe I'll just write it down.
I emailed it to you.
Oh, you did? Okay, because I
Yes.
got to get that towel out to you.
Yeah.
But I appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely. If you guys want to be contributors, I'll add you guys to the group, and we can talk about being on different shows throughout the week.
I'm also
Very
sometimes
cool.
on Jason's show when he needs
Okay.
me. We talked about that.
Great.
I've been trying to get on Unfair Sports' channel for a while, but we'll see how that works out.
G Brew says, thanks, Bomber. Next time, filter out the Sooner attitude. Are you talking about me? Did I say
think
something?
He's talking about our new friend.
Oh, Sooner
about
Lemon.
Sooner
You're talking about
Lemon,
Sooner
yeah.
Lemon. Okay,
There you
well, he's
go.
a friend of mine.
That's a
G
Kansas
Brew,
State
but I
Sooner
appreciate
fan.
it.
Bringing a Sooner on a Big 12 show is kind of dangerous.
It is.
Look, I understand.
getting
I
some
appreciate
takes.
it. It's my show, though. That's all
I
I
know.
say to that.
I have no issue with it. I'm just telling you.
I know. I'm teasing.
Yeah, just so
Totally.
long as you don't bring on any horns or Aggies, we'll be fine.
Yeah,
And I haven't done that. Not once. I haven't brought Texas A&M or Texas on this show. Never.
We can all agree on that.
I'm an Oklahoma guy. I've always loved Oklahoma.
I have no animosity towards Oklahoma whatsoever.
Yeah. 70s,
just
80s
no SEC
Oklahoma.
chanting.
Not until we play West Virginia. So until then, we won't have any differences.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That week, I'm not a fan for sure.
Well,
Right.
and I'm looking forward to the trip for you guys being in Provo too sooner.
It's just
So
like with
we're not
me
getting out
with
that easy.
with the Sooners in Texas. We have our bad
Right.
blood between us. That's when we play. But other than
Right.
that,
Well, that's all well and good. I missed
Yeah.
Baylor this year. I wanted Baylor to be an annual deal. That we've had a great time playing them.
hey, at least we didn't have to play them. That
Well,
saved
you
us.
got lucky. I think Baylor's a sleeping giant. I really do. It has been for a while.
We're cyclical.
Yeah, you gonna get rid of Aranda?
It sounds like I think they're going to give him one more year.
Yeah, that's risky,
I'm
man.
not. I can't say that I necessarily agree with that because I'm concerned if you go back to last year, and I would say from the Kansas State game on, actually, honestly, after we played OU and had, still everything in front of us, that team collapsed.
Yeah.
And then it flowed into this year. And I think there's some roster issues, there's some talent evaluation issues that make me concerned. And I'll be honest, even when we made that hire, so in our history, we've not had good luck with coaches that have not had previous head coaching experience.
Right.
And I think that's showing up again.
I thought it was telling after the UCF game, or at what was it, the end of the third quarter or the end of halftime, you guys were getting blown out, and it wasn't the coach that got you guys all going. It was the offensive line coach that
Yep.
got you guys going. The lack of passion, I think, is a thing. We had that here at BYU with Bronco Mendenhall. Great coach, but had no passion, and it drove me nuts. So,
Yeah, that's your old guy, Eric Mateos.
it is.
I
Yeah.
do think though, if
Yeah.
a team can have a good coach and it can have all the passion in the world, but if you don't have a team that's willing to do what it takes to win,
Right.
then there's no use having a coach that is passionate, right? So
Oh,
it's like,
sure. Sure.
Baylor could have a great team, and it could be just the coach, but they could also have a good coach, but it's a team that's sleeping.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Half the job of being a coach is picking your players.
Yes.
So if you have players that are not excited or whatever, then the coach picked the wrong players,
Yes.
and he
That's
needs to
right.
get rid of them and get new ones in.
Yeah.
So that's
Well, we'll have-
I get that. We get that argument about Neil Brown a lot. Well, he's not the one not catching the ball or yada yada. No, but by gosh, it's his job to put the guys in the game that are not going to make the mistakes,
That's
Yeah.
right.
or bench the guys that are.
Yep.
Or
And-
recruit more
and-
depth so you can replace them. I mean,
West Virginia's in the worst spot because you guys have a coach that you kind of maybe wanted to fire last year. Now this year he's winning enough that maybe he can't be fired because he gets you to
it's
a
an
bowl
odd
game.
and
It's
we
a
actually like
tweener
him.
spot. Yeah.
We
Yeah,
like him
that's
as a
tough.
person,
Right.
but he's not winning. It's just it'd be easier if he was a jerk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of course.
If it was Dana Holgerson, it'd be easy. Hey, just kick him out the door. But he's not.
Absolutely.
He's a
Yeah.
really not. And
But
I shouldn't say that. I actually liked Dana when he was here, but I like because he left us. I like to jab him, but no. He if he wasn't such a nice guy, it would be easy to say, hey, you just fire the guy. But
Right.
he's so easy to like. We want him to be successful, and
Yeah.
it's but yeah, you're right. It's a tough spot because every week you're like, okay, he's back on the hot seat. He's off the hot seat. He's on the hot seat with
That's
every
kind
game.
of been Aranda, the exact
Yeah.
same thing. You guys
Yeah.
are mirrored
It's
with
nuts.
Baylor. Yeah.
Yep.
Immaculate, you wanted to say something.
Oh no. I'm just
you
actually
put your-
listening to these guys.
You put your finger in the air. so
Yeah,
thought you were-
I'm sorry, I was
Okay.
watching chat over here.
But it's
That's
just like with OU last year. We had to find a team, and when we found that team,
Right.
now you see the outcome. We've done better, and we look a little better. We're not quite there yet. It's not the same OU that I've seen in the past, but we look better, right? So I think with every team, especially with West Virginia, just got to find the players. It's going to be hard, but you'll find them eventually.
This is what Kuz was getting at. OP Didon says, Kuz, the worst thing is if he wins enough just to stick around, just to drive the fan
Yeah.
base crazy.
And that's
I
what's
agree.
happening right now.
And it's the exact same thing that's happened at Baylor. It's a tough position to be in as a fan. All right, guys, we've almost been 2 hours. Thank you so much for being here. Kuz coming on.
Thank you, man.
Coming out of the wings. Appreciate you being here. Our web, we got to do this again, man. I'll tie you in
Absolutely.
on Twitter, and we'll see what we can do to get you on more, okay?
Sounds good.
And then Sooner Lemon, you do too. Get me your Twitter.
Understood.
All right. I'll let you guys say something on your way out. Kuz, I'll start with you.
Come check me out at Kuz's Corner, COUZ''S Corner. I cover West Virginia, the Big 12 Conference Realignment. Also, if you like college hoops, I cover West Virginia college hoops at Hoops from the Hills. And I have a website, Kuz'sCorner.com. Thanks to Bomber and the panel here for having me on. I always enjoy coming on with these guys.
Very welcome. I'm so glad you came. Sooner Lemon.
You can find me at on Discord at fast_pandabear 2023. I'm mostly on. I talk about anything football or whatever. I'm in a bunch of groups that are football. You can find me anywhere. It's just anywhere. Just kind of try to find me. You know what I mean? but Boomer Sooner, and we're winning that title, man.
Okay. All right. Boomer Sooner. I love it. R Webb.
Hey, again, great show. Thanks, guys. Really enjoy it. Second Bears, and oh, by the way, definitely recommend checking out Kuz and his content. Great stuff.
Absolutely. I couldn't say it anymore. Kuz's show was fantastic, and I'm a sub. So, Immaculate.
Hopefully you guys know where I'm at. I'm Immaculate View on X, and I'm also, of course, here, Mafia Show. Hopefully soon we'll have some big things to talk about in terms of realignment moves happening. It's tend to where I be focused. So I've been a little bit quiet here lately, but I do have a feeling that November might be a month to remember.
Very good. And Moen.
R.I.P. Bobby Knight.
Yeah.
When my time
Yes.
on earth is gone and my activities here are past, I want they bury me upside down and my critics can kiss my.
All right. And with
It
that,
was
everybody have a great night. Make sure you subscribe, follow us on Twitter, and everybody have a great night. Stay out of trouble. Peace.